Recording progress.
You're welcome to my YouTube channel, where I take you through research methodology from the start to finish very easily. Even if you're a novice, you will follow my teachings. You will understand and love research methodology. Today, I'm not talking about research. I'm just narrowing down to what are type 1, what are type 2, and what are type 3 errors. So let's just follow through. You need to understand that for you to have a grasp of this type 1, type 2, type 3 error, you should first differentiate that from the null hypothesis error of Neyman Jazzy's flower and Pearson Egon Sharp. These are two independent variables. They were talking about null hypothesis error, and they refer that to as type 1 and type 2 error. They describe these errors as false rejection, that is type 1 error, and false acceptance, that's type 2 error. That's not what I'm talking about. In fact, their basis for saying this is because whenever you have a 0.05 of your alpha coefficient, that is to say that 5% error and 95% confident in your work, that's what they're saying. If you have that, then your probability value, if you use Carl Pearson product movement correlation coefficient, PPMCC, in doing your computation, the arrow, when you see the arrow value, if it is less than 0.05, then you should reject that null hypothesis, because at this time you are less, your confidence level is less than 95%, so you should reject it. But if it is greater than 0.05, it is 0.05 and above, then you should accept it, because your confidence in saying that the analysis are true, you are 95% or more sure that the analysis are true, then you accept the null hypothesis. Now, they are saying here, Neyman and Pearson, they are saying that you are supposed to accept the null hypothesis if the p-value is greater than 0.5, but you went ahead to reject it. This rejection, they call it false rejection, type 1 error. And then on the other hand, you are supposed to reject the null hypothesis because the p-value is less than 0.05. That means that your confidence level is less than 95%. You should reject it, but he did not reject, but he went ahead to accept the null hypothesis. This acceptance, they call it false acceptance. They call it type 2 error. I'm not talking about that. I'm looking at where you make type 1 error, type 2 error, type 3 error. If type 1, type 2, type 3 error occur in your work, that is what I'm talking about. And these, I refer to it as objective errors. These errors make your entire work a joke, unscientific and unacceptable. The recommendation that will come from this work will not be taken seriously, because there are type 1 errors, there are type 2 errors, there are type 3 errors. What are these errors? Type 1, type 2, type 3 errors. Let's start with type 1 error. This error occurs when two things happen in empirical work. Number one, if the number of research respondents are less than the sample size. By right, the number of people that you are going to interview should be up to the number that should represent the general population. The general population is being represented by the sample, and now the sample size. But if the number of the samples, the amount of people that you administer the questionnaire to are less than the sample size, then of course the ideas coming from these people, the people you administer the questionnaire to, cannot represent the total population. Another error you could do that referred to as type 1 error is when the number of respondents are too small, say less than 30 persons. You can't interview less than 30 persons in a macro study. Macro study means you're studying organization, you're studying government, you're studying institutions, you're studying opinions and all that. These are macro studies. Now, if your organization say bank within your community are just bank, 5. If there are only 5 banks within your community, your area of geographical scope where you're studying, then you should look for more than 30 or 30 or above within the bands to question about the subject under review. But if it is less than 30, then there's bound to be type 1 error. Now let's talk about type 2 error. Type 2 error occurs when the study data is not properly analyzed, or you use, that's number one. Number two, when you use a wrong analytical tool in analyzing your data. These two. Now, let me start with the second one. You don't use non-parametric tools like Candel, TWAB, Spearman, chi-square in your correlational analysis. You don't do that. Particularly in a study, you know that the outcome is very important. Major decisions will be taken from that analysis. Then you don't use this. These are just judgmental tools. They are non-selective tools. You should be using parametric tools. Parametric tools like Cal product movement correlation coefficient, the PPMCC. Why? Because this very tool will let you know whether there is a linear correlation between or among the variables. And if there is no linear correlation among the variables, your outcome will not come. This product, the Pearson's tool, parametric tool, will not give you any outcome. So the second way of committing type 2 error is when you wrongly analyze your data. If you, for instance, exemplate here, when you carry out a correlation analysis and you conclude from your correlation analysis, from that output, that you had carried out hypothesis testing or you had carried out a regression analysis, then you are wrong. Because regression analysis is not the same thing as correlational testing. Correlational analysis is what I call the assumption test. It is what you have to carry out first to be sure whether regression analysis will be carried out. Because if there is no relationship, linear relationship among the variables, then a regression analysis cannot be conducted. So you first of all carry out the correlational test to know whether they are linearly related, the variables, before you go ahead and carry out the hypothesis testing or the regression analysis. That is sure. So don't just conclude that you had carried out the hypothesis after carrying out the correlation. No, you go ahead and perform your hypothesis testing or your regression analysis after carrying out your correlational test. Now, type 3 error. This type 3 error occurs when the output of the analysis is wrongly interpreted. If you give a wrong interpretation to your analysis, to the output, the result of your analysis, then you have made a type 3 error. Even this very type 1, type 2 errors of Neyman and Neyman and Pearson. This error, they mentioned that is the type 1 and type 2 error, falls within the type 3 error of this objective error. This very error falls within the type 3 error because you are supposed to accept the analysis, the null hypothesis, but you rejected it. So that is an error in interpretation. But when you are supposed to reject it, you accepted it. So either one falls within type 3 error. You must not wrongly interpret it. So thank you, my viewers, for listening. This is all I can tell you in this very video, that you should avoid type 1, type 2, and type 3 error. I want to say thank you. I'll see you in my next video as I explain other areas, very important subjects under research methodology. I am Dr. Abel Simeon. I am the Managing Director of Amom Consulting Limited. I am a doctoral research fellow at the Corporate Institute of Strategic Research. I'm also a Director of Strategic Planning and Research at the Institute of Professional Industrialist and Management Development. Thank you for listening. If you have any question, please. If you have any questions, please, you should revert to, just send them to my WhatsApp. My WhatsApp here, as you see it here, 0.0 plus 1050232466646, or you can even send it to my, you can just send it to my email. You can say abel.simeon@ipimd.org. You can send it down there, or you can send it to Abel Simeon. You can send it to Abel Simeon. Oh, sorry. Abel Simeon at the Corporate Institute of Strategic Research.org.ng. Or you could send it directly to my email to brotherabel1@gmail.com. @gmail.com. So either one you send, I will get it. Thank you so very much for listening. See you in my next video. Thank you so much.